We have been talking at nauseum about State of Decay 3, and for good reason, because State of Decay 3, guys, is one of my most anticipated games of the future. And I know for many of you out there, you are really looking forward to State of Decay 3, but there's a little bit of I think we can all feel it as State of Decay fans. There's a little bit of the atmosphere doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel, even though we got a second trailer back in 2024's Xbox Game Showcase, it's felt like the longer we're going here, the game is, we all know it's been in certain levels of development hell, and there's really no question about it at this point. We're getting closer, I think, to the finish line of this game coming out. But, you know, we've talked on a multitude of occasions where State of Decay 3, there could be not just an Undead Labs issue, but a higher-ups issue at Xbox. Xbox has been becoming notorious for delaying a lot of their games. And, you know, they've got their hands in so many different places, all these different studios working on a multitude of different titles. It's almost like they're taking on too much that they can't chew. You know what I mean? But with State of Decay specifically, we have been waiting for this game ever since it was shown off in 2020. We haven't heard much, you know, obviously from 2020 to 2024, nothing, just, you know, radio silence. And now, you know, we were thinking, because of some of the hints and little leaks and things of that nature that Undead Labs was giving us before the Xbox Game Showcase in 2025, we thought that they were going to make a presence there, and they didn't. The question now lies in, you know, is State of Decay 3 going to be able to hit its 2026 release window? Because the game has been delayed a multitude of times now. We have the Coalition, who are the guys and girls that work on Gears of War Reloaded, as well as Gears of War E-Day. They're helping Undead Labs. And Obsidian, the folks making Grounded 2 and The Outer Worlds 2, are also helping Undead Labs. So it's kind of like they've got multiple teams helping Undead Labs, which is very concerning, you know, because if you can't handle those things in-house, when you have these other studios are working on their own projects, it kind of just continues these delays, you know? So now could Gears of War E-Day get delayed? Could Grounded 2 get delayed? You know, you look at games like Fable, all these games, there's concern that, you know, it's very hard to make a game, guys. I mean, I think it's really important for us to preface this by saying it's very difficult to make a video game, right? I've never made a video game, but I have seen and done a lot of research on like the process, and it is unbelievable how difficult it is to make a game from an indie perspective. But when you're dealing with a AAA studio and you have to kind of throw everything past the higher ups at a company like Xbox, it can take time, especially when you have Xbox focused on their big heavy hitters like Call of Duty, you know, Gears of War E-Day, obviously, or Halo, you know, the Elder Scrolls. I mean, you would think Elder Scrolls 6 would have already came out by now, but that's a different conversation for another day. That has been complete radio silence outside of the Oblivion remaster. But look, State of Decay 3, I do believe we're getting closer, but I want to talk about this article that came out from PC Games, guys. State of Decay 3's release date estimate. So there has been so much rumor, so much speculation about when this title is coming out. I think that 2026 sounds like, look, I would be so excited. I'd be elated if it came out in 2026, but I'm getting concerned, and I'll tell you why here in a minute. We estimate that State of Decay 3 will release in 2026 based on the cinematic reveal trailer we received at the Xbox Games Showcase and how State of Decay 2 was released 2 years after the reveal of E3 2016. And look, you can definitely look to the past in terms of like when things get released in the future, like for certain franchises. We've done this a lot with Gears of War as well. Gears of War, Gears 5 was released at this time. So, or it was revealed here, released here. So yeah, Gears of War Reloaded got revealed here, released here. Gears of War E-Day, you can do that. It doesn't always line up, but I get and I understand where they're coming from when they say this. But additionally, Windows Central's Ches Gordon has reiterated on separate occasions over the past months that the game is targeting a 2026 launch, slipping back from the 2025 window Microsoft was ostensibly hoping for. There were hopes it would resurface at Summer Game Fest 2025, though it failed to materialize. Doesn't make any sense that it would be at Summer Game Fest when you had Xbox Game Showcase like right around the corner from that, but I digress. Though the first in the series is a beloved survival game, State of Decay 2 released with a myriad of issues, including many, many bugs. And while there were eventually ironed out, fans of the games felt the second offering lacked the story beats and character interactions that made the initial game so good. It also experienced its fair share of online co-op issues, as it didn't have cross-progression and gave friends joining your game little to no incentive to help you out or experience the world together. Well, first of all, I totally disagree here. I think that, at least to me, State of Decay 2, like State of Decay 1 was cool in its own right, but I really feel that the State of Decay 2, when that came out, it really started to build a fan base. And they definitely had bugs. There were glitches. There were issues with, co-op. There was issues. It did have a lot of issues, guys. But the building blocks of greatness are there. Like, a lot of it you just got to fine tune. A lot of it you've got to, I think polish, right? And I think Undead Labs, with the success of State of Decay 2, which I think to an extent it was kind of surprising to Xbox as well as Undead Labs, like just it became like a niche. Like there's really nothing like State of Decay. So they have this niche. They got this this IP that is special. And so maybe that's why they've got the Coalition helping them out, even though the Coalition's working on Gears, why they got Obsidian helping out, even though they've got Grounded 2 and the Outer Worlds 2. And I mean, what would be really interesting and fascinating to me is if the Coalition were helping Undead Labs with the Horde mode or the co-op mode or something of that nature. And maybe Obsidian is helping out with the story and Undead Labs is working on different multiplayer elements, or you know what I'm saying? Like it'd be interesting how these teams are being divvied up. But nonetheless, I disagree that, I think that State of Decay was like, okay, this is kind of an interesting concept. State of Decay 2 took it up a notch, and I think it really started building a fan base. And we see this, guys. There's tons of us that love State of Decay. This is becoming a staple IP franchise. And I think that State of Decay 3, though, needs to get knocked out of the park. And I think what we've seen so far from the 2020 reveal trailer, I thought that was great. And I think when we saw like zombie animals and, from that perspective, that's going to be awesome. Then when we got to the second trailer, you saw really the graphic fidelity of this title and how graphically it looks great. Now, the zombies, not really seeing a lot of new zombies. There's certain elements I think that are really, cool with that trailer. Like I said, the graphics alone are incredible, right? I love the shrine, when you lose people in the community and stuff. The story looks like it's going to be something that like tugs at your heartstrings and stuff. It's going to be, I think it's going to be exciting. I just hope there's a lot of variety with like the different zombies and stuff as well. But, and of course, we didn't see zombie animals in that second trailer, which does concern me a little bit. But nonetheless, I think we're building with something. I think Undead Labs has something here. They've got something special. That being said, State of Decay 2 did end up in pretty good shape, and hopefully it laid down a more concrete path for State of Decay 3 to follow. It does seem like the new trailer addresses what was missing from the original story, the camaraderie and in-depth characters we can get behind. We're also hoping that the breakdown mode is present, whether as an extra mode, a DLC, or baked into the campaign in some way. Totally agree, man. I mean, I think that State of Decay 3 has a real opportunity here to take some of the things that worked, some of the things that didn't work from State of Decay 2 and refine them and polish them and make it better. You know, I think there is something to be said for what Undead Labs has here. And maybe that's why there's so many delays, guys. Maybe the reason why there's all these delays is because they're really taking their time with this project. You know, because I've stated this a number of times, guys, on the YouTube channel. I've stated it on Horror Theory. I think State of Decay 3 has the makings of being something very special in terms of becoming a flagship IP for Xbox, where we could very well get a multitude of these games into the future. And I think that if Undead Labs does the right thing here and they knock this thing out of the park, we're going to get multiple continuations of State of Decay into the future. You know, I think that State of Decay has the possibility, the opportunity to be like Gears of War, you know, a long-withstanding franchise. I also think that when I look at, you know, what Gears of War is doing, for example, where Gears is going multi-platform, you know, cross progression, cross play with PlayStation, State of Decay, I think, could very well do this as well at some point. I think you knock out, you know, State of Decay 3, you knock it out of the park, and then you get multiple more continuations of this franchise into the future. And I think it could be, like I said, it could be like the next Gears of War for Xbox. And they could very well release it on PlayStation, and then the fan base explodes. Like just so many more people coming into the fan base. Because, you know, guys, I've stated that the State of Decay 3 initial announcement trailer back in 2020, I stated on a multitude of occasions that I felt when I saw that teaser, even though it was just a teaser, it really felt like Xbox was trying to take this approach where they were trying to make State of Decay 3 a competitor to The Last of Us. It was almost like I felt like they were trying to do a Last of Us version, but on Xbox. And obviously, when we got the second trailer all these years later, that's not what's happening, like at all. What they're doing is similar, you know, down the same vein of what's worked for State of Decay up to this point. And it seems like they're doubling down on it just with better graphics and more than likely some added features and quality of life things. So super excited about it. Obviously, guys, we've gotten a number of, you know, I should say 2 trailers at this point in time. The first one focused on zombie animals, or zombie deer specifically, which was gnarly. That thing was awesome. Then the second trailer, though, we didn't really get that. It was more of a focus on the community element, more of a focus on, you know, kind of seeing what looked to be some gameplay, potential gameplay. The graphics, incredible. Love the graphics, but no zombie animals in the second one. Like I said, that does concern me. I don't like that we did not see any zombie animals in the second trailer. I think that is certainly something that is going to continue to help State of Decay elevate to the next level of, you know, the zombie simulation, you know, niche that they have right now. That adds to it, having zombie animals. Imagine having like, yeah, the zombie deer, zombie wolves, zombie bears. Like, you know, you just never know what you're going to come across as you're exploring the world. So I think that it's really important that State of Decay 3 continues to evolve and adapt, and of course, refine and polish the things that weren't working really well in, you know, the second game, right? You know, all the different bugs and stuff from co-op to even to the single player story. So like I said, overall, guys, State of Decay 3 is one of my most anticipated games of the future. I cannot wait for it. We're going to be covering everything that we find out about State of Decay 3 as it comes out on the YouTube channel. right here on Horror Theory. So let us know, though, are you guys concerned about State of Decay 3? Where's your excitement level at this point from the first trailer to the second trailer? When do you think this game's going to release? Do you think they're going to be able to stick to 2026? Or do you think that they're going to get pushed to 2027? Because a lot of people have asked me what my thoughts are on the release date for State of Decay 3. And here's my concern, guys. My concern with 2026 has to do with a couple of things. I felt that we were going to get a release date trailer at the Xbox Game Showcase this year. That did not happen. So we didn't get a State of Decay 3 trailer or release date trailer. All we know at this point is that it sounds like State of Decay 3 is still on track for 2026. However, let's talk about 2026, shall we? Because I think that if you were going to release State of Decay 3, say January of 2026 or February, which makes a lot of sense. I thought that that was when they were maybe planning on doing it in the first place. But when we didn't get the release date at the Xbox Game Showcase, it just feels like it's not a lot of time to promote the game and really build hype and excitement for it if it were to come out in January, February. You're not going to bring the game out in May because there's a little game coming out known as GTA 6 that is going to absolutely take the gaming world by storm, whether you like it or not, for better or worse. It is going to be the biggest game on planet Earth, and it's not even going to be close. So you don't want to release anywhere near GTA 6 unless you wanted to have some kind of like Oppenheimer Barbie situation, like in the movie industry, the Barbenheimer phenomenon that happened, people going from Oppenheimer to Barbie, people buying GTA, and since they're out, oh, there's State of Decay as well, let's buy State of Decay as well as GTA. But more than likely, that is not happening. And fall, it leaves us with like the fall, or the summer, I guess you could say, of 2026. I don't love the fall though, because fall of 2026, more than likely we're getting Gears of War E-Day, which you don't want to compete with Gears of War E-Day, even though State of Decay 3 is totally different than Gears. It's totally different than GTA, but Xbox releasing one of its flagship IPs, that being Gears of War E-Day, Halloween of 2026, and if you have State of Decay 3 somewhere near that, it's almost kind of, even though they're different fan bases, I know myself, I'm a massive Gears fan, but I'm also a massive State of Decay fan. So if you force me to play two different titles kind of around the same time, I just don't know if that's really, I don't think it's beneficial for those, really for both games. I think that you want to keep them spread apart. And then of course, you also have Call of Duty that releases every single year. Even though State of Decay 3 is totally different from COD, you've got a massive amount of people that play Call of Duty when it comes out, whether that's October or November. And yeah, you could say, well, COD is more like, Gears has to be more concerned about COD than, State of Decay. But what I'm just saying, guys, is that really throughout 2026, besides the beginning of the year, it's going to be pretty packed with games. We still don't know about Fable. We don't know about Perfect Dark. We don't know about, Elder Scrolls. We don't know. I mean, there's so many games that haven't come out yet, or we haven't found out about, like when they're going to release, that the slate or the release table of these titles, it could be completely packed as we get into next year. Because a lot of these games are getting pushed further and further. We haven't heard about a new Halo game yet. So, like I said, look, I'm very excited about State of Decay 3. I'm a little bit concerned about when it's going to release, though. I'm a little bit concerned about the state it's in. We were in a limbo state. We were in a development hell cycle for years. After that initial release trailer, that initial teaser trailer that came out in 2020, radio silence for 4 years. Then we got the a second trailer at the Xbox Game Showcase. Is it going to be another 4 years until we hear something again from State of Decay 3? You know, these are real questions that we have to ask ourselves because we thought we were going to get something this year, and Xbox seems to have their hands in Call of Duty, Black Ops 7, potentially Gears of War E-Day, maybe Fable, Perfect Dark, you know, Elder Scrolls. I mean, you know, there's so many games that Xbox has their hands in right now that some of these games are kind of almost getting forgotten about when State of Decay 3 is, I think it's one game away. Like State of Decay 3 could be the pivotal game where this becomes a flagship IP for Xbox. But nonetheless, guys, I would love to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. What do you guys think with State of Decay 3? Are you concerned? Not concerned? Do you think it's going to release in 2026 or beyond? What do you guys think? Let us know in the comment section down below and let us know your thoughts.